The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a sound like thunder rolling across distant mountains. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the entrance, his heart beating steady despite the sight before him. The chamber stretched for nearly a mile in every direction. Floating platforms held representatives from over 800 different species. Some had scales that shimmered like liquid metal. Others had bodies made of pure energy that pulsed with colors human eyes had never seen before. Giant creatures the size of buildings sat on platforms reinforced with gravity dampeners. Tiny beings no bigger than insects floated in climate-controlled spheres. Marcus took his first step forward. The sound of his leather shoes against the crystalline floor echoed through the vast space. Every alien eye, sensor, and perception organ turned toward him. He was the first human to ever enter this chamber. He was the first human to stand before the combined power of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for over 50,000 years. The Council had sent their message to Earth exactly 3 months ago. Humanity had detected the transmission through the deep space arrays near Jupiter. The message was simple and terrifying. Earth had been noticed. Earth had been judged. Earth would send a representative to the Galactic Council headquarters on the artificial world called the Nexus. Or Earth would be classified as a hostile species and dealt with accordingly. Marcus walked the long path toward the central, speaking platform. He could feel the weight of their stares. He could sense their curiosity, their confusion, and something else that surprised him: fear. Many of these ancient beings were looking at him with fear in their eyes. High, Arbiter Venn rose from his throne at the highest point of the chamber. His body was covered in white fur that seemed to glow with inner light. His forearms spread wide in a gesture that Marcus had been told meant authority. "You are the human called Marcus Webb," Venn said. His voice was translated through a device embedded in Marcus's ear. "You represent the species from the planet called Earth." "I am," Marcus replied. His voice carried through the chamber without any device. The Galactic Council had provided translation technology that worked both ways. "I am honored to stand before this council." A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. It took Marcus a moment to realize it was laughter. Cold, mocking laughter from hundreds of different species. "Honored?" A creature that looked like a living shadow spoke from a nearby platform. Its voice was like wind through dead leaves. "You should be terrified, little creature. Your species has existed for merely 200,000 years. We have watched empires rise and fall for millions. You are nothing but infants playing with fire." Marcus smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something that everyone else in the room did not. "With respect," Marcus said, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding about why I am here." High Arbiter Venn leaned forward. "There is no misunderstanding. Your species has developed faster than light travel. You have begun expanding beyond your home system. According to galactic law, any new species must submit to Council authority. You will accept our oversight. You will follow our rules. You will limit your expansion to the 3 systems we have designated for your use. If you refuse, we will take action." "What kind of action?" Marcus asked. The shadow creature laughed again. "The same action we have taken against every species that refused to comply. We will send our war fleets. We will destroy your military capabilities. We will place your species under direct control until you learn to behave properly." Marcus nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Every weapon system in the chamber immediately locked onto him. Red targeting lights appeared on his chest from a dozen different directions. "This is not a weapon," Marcus said calmly. "It is a recording device. I am going to share something with this council. Something that will change everything you think you know about humanity." He pressed a button on the device. A holographic image appeared above his head, projected large enough for the entire chamber to see. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue against the darkness. 3 weeks ago, Marcus said, a species called the Keth decided they did not want to wait for this meeting. They sent an assassination fleet to Earth, 12 warships armed with planet-killing weapons. They arrived in our solar system, and they fired everything they had at our planet. The chamber fell completely silent. This is what happened to those weapons. Marcus continued. The holographic image changed. It showed the Keth weapons approaching Earth. Nuclear warheads, plasma bombs, gravitational disruptors, weapons that could crack a planet in half. They struck Earth's atmosphere, and then something impossible happened. They simply stopped. They froze in midair, and then they dissolved into nothing. Not destroyed, not deflected. They simply ceased to exist. Impossible, High Arbiter Venn whispered. The Keth fleet tried to flee, Marcus continued. They did not succeed. The image showed the 12 Keth warships. One by one, they began to fall apart. Their weapons melted. Their engines died. Their hulls crumbled like paper in the rain. Within minutes, there was nothing left but dust drifting in the void. No survivors? The shadow creature asked. Oh, there were survivors, Marcus said. Every single crew member survived. We transported them safely to the surface of Mars before their ships were destroyed. They are currently our guests. Very confused guests, but unharmed. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted at each other in 100 different languages. Some fled toward the exits. Others stared at Marcus with expressions of pure terror. High Arbiter Venn slammed his 4 fists against his throne. The sound silenced the room. Explain this, he demanded. What technology do you possess? What weapon did you use? Marcus Webb smiled that same knowing smile. That is the interesting part, he said. It was not a weapon. It was not technology. You see, High Arbiter, humans are not what you think we are. We never were. And I am afraid that changes everything about how this conversation is going to proceed. He looked up at the assembled might of a galactic civilization that had never been challenged. Shall I continue? The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was so complete that Marcus Webb could hear his own heartbeat. 800 species stared at him. The most powerful beings in the known universe waited for him to speak. High Arbiter Venn sat frozen on his throne, his 4 arms gripping the ancient stone with enough force to leave cracks. You asked me to explain, Marcus said. I will try, but I must warn you, the truth is stranger than anything your scientists have ever imagined. He pressed another button on his device. A new holographic image appeared above the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy, billions of stars spinning in the cosmic dance they had performed for eons. Your astronomers have studied the universe for millions of years, Marcus said. You have mapped every corner of this galaxy. You have cataloged every species, every planet, every moon. You believe you understand how reality works. He paused and looked directly at High Arbiter Venn. You are wrong. A creature made of crystalline structures spoke from a platform near the ceiling. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. Arrogance. Pure arrogance from an infant species. We were building empires when your ancestors were swimming in primordial oceans. You were, Marcus agreed. And in all that time, did you ever wonder why certain things in the universe seem designed for life? Did you ever ask why the fundamental constants of physics are exactly perfect for consciousness to exist? Did you ever question why the universe seems to want living things to thrive? Another voice called out. This one came from a being that looked like a walking plant, its leaves rustling with each word. These are philosophical questions. We are discussing military and political realities. No, Marcus said. We are discussing the nature of existence itself, because that is the only way you will understand what humanity truly is. He expanded the galactic map. It zoomed out, showing not just one galaxy, but millions of them, stretching across the observable universe in great web-like structures. 15 billion years ago, something created this universe. You can call it God. You can call it the source. You can call it the original consciousness. The name does not matter. What matters is what it did after creation. The chamber remained silent. Even the mocking voices had grown quiet. The Creator did not want to watch its universe from the outside, Marcus continued. It wanted to experience creation from within. So it divided itself. It scattered pieces of its own consciousness across time and space, placing them in physical forms that could grow, learn, feel, and evolve. Are you claiming that life itself is divine? High Arbiter Venn asked. His voice had lost its authority. Now it held only curiosity. All life carries a fragment of the original consciousness, Marcus said. Every species in this chamber has a piece of the Creator within them. That is why the universe supports life so perfectly. That is why consciousness exists at all. The shadow creature spoke again, its voice heavy with suspicion. If this is true, then what makes humans special? Why can we not harm you when all other species are vulnerable? Marcus nodded. This was the question he had been waiting for. Because humans are different. We are not just fragments of the original consciousness. We are something more. He changed the holographic display. Now it showed Aya, Ruth, floating alone in the darkness. The image zoomed in, passing through the atmosphere, through the clouds, down to the surface where billions of humans live their daily lives. When the Creator scattered itself across the universe, it kept one piece back. One final fragment that contained not just consciousness, but memory. The memory of being whole. The memory of being everything. And this fragment, High Arbiter Venn said slowly, it became humanity? It became the potential for humanity, Marcus corrected. For 200,000 years, we were just another species. We lived and died like any other creatures. But something happened 5,000 years ago. Something woke up inside us. A new image appeared. Ancient Earth, pyramids rising from the desert, cities growing along great rivers, art and music and mathematics blossoming across continents. We began to create, not just tools for survival, but beauty for its own sake. We began to dream of things that did not exist and then make them real. We began to look at the stars and feel a longing to return home. Return home? The crystalline creature asked. Return where? To wholeness, Marcus said. Humans are the only species in the universe that carries the memory of being complete. And that memory gives us something no other species possesses. It gives us a connection to the fabric of reality itself. He let his words hang in the air for a moment before continuing. Your weapons cannot harm us, because we are not separate from the universe. We are part of its foundation. Attacking humanity is like attacking the laws of physics. Reality itself refuses to allow it. The chamber erupted again, but this time the noise was different. It was not mockery or anger. It was fear mixed with something else. Wonder, awe, terror. You expect us to believe this? A massive creature covered in armor plating demanded. You expect us to accept that your species is somehow sacred? Untouchable? I expect nothing, Marcus said. I am simply telling you the truth. You can test it if you wish. Send your greatest warship. Fire your most powerful weapon directly at me, right here in this chamber. I promise you, nothing will happen. The weapon will not work. It cannot work. High Arbiter Venn raised one of his 4 hands. We will not test anything. Not yet. First, you will explain something else to me. If humans are invulnerable, if you cannot be harmed by any force in the galaxy, Then why did you come here at all? Why negotiate? Why not simply ignore our laws and do whatever you please? Marcus Webb smiled. It was a sad smile this time. The smile of someone carrying a heavy burden. Because invulnerability is not the same as power, he said. We cannot be harmed, but we also cannot harm others. The same connection that protects us also binds us. We feel what the universe feels. When any living thing suffers, we suffer with it. When any conscious being dies, a part of us dies too. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of species gathered there. Humanity does not want enemies. We do not want war. We want peace. Real peace. The kind of peace that comes when every species in the galaxy works together instead of fighting for dominance. A pretty speech, the shadow creature said. But words are easy. Actions are harder. Then let me show you our actions, Marcus replied. In the 3 months since we received your message, humanity has been busy. We have developed technologies that we would like to share with the Galactic Council. Medical advances that can extend the lifespan of any species by centuries. Energy systems that can power entire worlds without depleting resources. Transportation methods that make your fastest ships look like children's toys. He displayed holographic images of each technology as he spoke. The council members leaned forward, their fear temporarily forgotten in the face of such incredible offerings. We offer these freely, Marcus said. No conditions. No demands. We ask only for one thing in return. What thing? High Arbiter Venn asked. A chance, Marcus said. A chance to prove that cooperation is better than domination. A chance to show you what the galaxy could become if we work together. A chance to take our place among you, not as subjects, but as partners. The chamber fell silent again. Marcus Webb stood alone on the central platform, surrounded by the combined might of a galactic civilization. He was one human facing 800 species. And yet, somehow, he was the most powerful being in the room. High Arbiter Venn finally spoke. The council will deliberate. We will discuss your claims and your offer. But I must warn you, Ambassador Webb, not everyone here will accept your words so easily. There are those who will see humanity as a threat that must be contained, one way or another. Marcus nodded. I understand. And I want you to understand something too. We are not your enemies. But we will not be your subjects either. We are something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. And one way or another, everything is about to change. He turned and began walking back toward the massive doors. Behind him, the chaos began again. Arguments broke out between species. Alliances formed and shattered in moments. The old order of the galaxy trembled, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something ancient began to stir. Something that had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador Marcus Webb addressed the Galactic Council. In that time, the galaxy had changed more than it had in the previous 1,000 years. Some species embraced humanity's offer of partnership. Others retreated to their home systems, terrified of what the future might hold. And a small group of the most powerful beings in the council began plotting in secret. Grand Admiral Theron stood in the war room of the Nexus, the artificial world that served as the heart of galactic civilization. His species, the Valorians, had dominated military matters for 10,000 years. They were tall, powerful creatures with scales of deep purple and eyes that glowed with inner fire. Theron had never lost a battle. He had never faced an enemy. He could not destroy Dot until now. The human claims are impossible, he said to the assembled conspirators. No species can be invulnerable. It defies the laws of physics. The Keth attack proved otherwise, said a being named Vox, whose body was made of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. 12 warships. Full weapons discharge. Zero damage to Earth. There must be a shield technology, Theron insisted. Some kind of defense system we cannot detect. All we need to do is find its weakness. A third conspirator spoke from the shadows. She was called the Whisper, and no one knew what species she truly was. She had served the Council as their chief intelligence operative for centuries. Her voice slid through the air like silk over glass. I have spent the last 3 weeks investigating humanity. I sent agents to Earth. I deployed surveillance systems throughout their solar system. I attempted to infiltrate their communications, their governments, their military installations. And, Theron demanded, every agent I sent has disappeared. Not killed, disappeared. They simply stopped existing the moment they attempted any hostile action toward humans. My surveillance systems recorded nothing useful. Every time they tried to gather sensitive information, they malfunctioned. It is as if the universe itself is protecting these creatures. Theron slammed his fist against the table. The metal surface dented under the impact. I will not accept this. The Valorian Empire has stood for 10,000 years. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have crushed every threat that has ever emerged. I will not bow to a species that has barely mastered basic space travel. Vox flickered with agitation. What do you propose? If we cannot harm them directly, what options do we have? We do not need to harm them, the Whisper said softly. We need to control them. Or better yet, we need to turn the rest of the galaxy against them. Theron leaned forward. Explain. The humans claim they want peace. They claim they want partnership. But many species in the Council are still frightened of them. They see humanity's invulnerability as a threat. What happens if humans decide to stop being peaceful? What happens if they choose to conquer instead of cooperate? They cannot harm anyone, Vox pointed out. The ambassador said so himself. Did he? Or did he say they choose not to harm anyone? There is a difference. The Whisper's form seemed to smile, though she had no visible face. We spread doubt. We spread fear. We convince the Council that humanity's peaceful nature is temporary, that sooner or later they will use their power to dominate. And when enough species believe this, they will demand that humanity be contained. Contained how? Theron asked. Isolated, quarantined, their solar system sealed off from the rest of the galaxy. If we cannot destroy them, we can at least prevent them from spreading their influence. Theron nodded slowly. And while they are contained, we search for their weakness. We study them. We find a way to break through their protection. Exactly, the Whisper agreed. It will take time. Perhaps decades. Perhaps centuries. But eventually, every shield can be broken. Every protection can be overcome. We simply need patience. Far across the galaxy, on the human colony ship Hope's Journey, Captain Elena Vasquez felt a cold chill run down her spine. She stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars rushing past as the ship traveled through dimensional space toward the edge of explored territory. Captain? Her first officer, a young man named Thomas Drake, approached with concern on his face. Are you all right? You look troubled. Something is wrong, Elena said quietly. I cannot explain it. I just feel like something terrible is about to happen. Thomas stood beside her. The mission is going well. We are on schedule to reach the Outer Reach colonies in 2 weeks. All systems are functioning normally. I know, but this feeling will not go away. She turned to face him. Have you noticed anything strange during this voyage? Anything at all? Thomas hesitated before answering. The crew has reported some unusual experiences. Dreams that seem more vivid than normal. A sense of being watched. Some of the junior officers say they have heard whispers in empty corridors. Elena's eyes widened. Whispers? What kind of whispers? They cannot make out the words. Just sounds, almost like a voice trying to communicate, but unable to break through. Elena looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between worlds, something was stirring. She could feel it in her bones. Something old. Something powerful. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. "Double the security patrols," she ordered, "and tell the crew to report anything unusual immediately, no matter how small or strange it seems." "Yes, Captain." Thomas moved to carry out her orders, but he paused at the door. "Captain, do you think we are in danger?" Elena considered the question carefully before answering. "Humans cannot be harmed. That is what the Council fears most about us. But there are things in this universe older than the Galactic Council, older than any species currently alive. And I am not certain that our invulnerability applies to everything." Thomas left, and Elena remained alone on the observation deck. She placed her hand against the cold glass and closed her eyes. Deep inside her, in a place she had never fully understood, something responded. A warmth spread through her chest. A voice that was not quite a voice whispered in her mind. "You are right to be worried," it said. "They are coming. The ones who were here before the stars were born. The ones who remember what the universe was like before life existed. They do not want partnership. They do not want peace. They want what they have always wanted: silence, darkness, the end of all consciousness." Elena opened her eyes. Her hands were trembling. "Who are you?" she whispered to the empty room. The voice did not answer directly. Instead, it showed her something, a vision that burned itself into her mind. She saw the galaxy, beautiful and full of life. Then she saw it change. Stars going dark one by one. Planets crumbling to dust. Species crying out in terror as something vast and incomprehensible swept through their worlds, erasing everything that had ever existed. And at the center of the darkness, she saw something looking back at her. Eyes that held no light. A presence that radiated pure emptiness. "We are what came before," a vision seemed to say. "And we are patient. We have been waiting since the beginning. Now, finally, the door is opening. The ones who carry the fragment have awakened. And that means the time has come." Elena stumbled backward, gasping for air. The vision faded, but its impact remained. She understood now why she had felt so uneasy. The Galactic Council was not the real threat. The conspiracy forming against humanity was not the true danger. Something far worse was coming. And humanity, for all its invulnerability, might be the only species capable of standing against it. She ran to the communication station and began recording an emergency message for Ambassador Webb. The galaxy needed to know what was approaching. They needed to prepare. They needed to unite. Before it was too late, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber was darker than before. Half the lighting systems had failed for no apparent reason. Many of the floating platforms hung empty. Their occupants had fled back to their home systems, terrified by the reports flooding in from every corner of the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez stood beside him. She had arrived at the Nexus 3 days ago, her ship damaged but intact. The Hope's Journey had been attacked during its voyage, not by any known species, by something else, something that had emerged from the void between stars and tried to tear the ship apart. "Tell them what you saw," Marcus said quietly. "Tell them everything." Elena stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried the weight of horrors that no human had ever witnessed before. "My ship was traveling through dimensional space when we encountered an anomaly. The navigation systems could not identify it. One moment we were alone. The next moment, something was with us." She activated a holographic display. The image showed the Hope's Journey surrounded by darkness. But this was not ordinary darkness. It moved. It pulsed. It had shape and form, like a living creature made of pure emptiness. It spoke to us, Elena continued, not with words, with thoughts pressed directly into our minds. It said that it had been waiting. It said that the awakening of humanity had opened a door that had been sealed since the birth of the universe. It said that now, finally, it could return. Return from where? High Arbiter Ven asked. His voice trembled slightly. Even the leader of the Galactic Council was frightened. From the void. From the nothing that existed before creation. These beings are not aliens in the way we understand the term. They are something older. They existed before matter, before energy, before time itself. When the universe was born, they were pushed to the edges of reality, trapped in the spaces between dimensions. But they never stopped trying to break through. Marcus took over the explanation. According to the vision Elena received, these entities are called the Hollow. They are the opposite of consciousness, the opposite of life. They want to return reality to its original state, empty, silent, dead. Grand Admiral Theron, who stood on his platform with barely concealed hostility, spoke up. How convenient. Just as humanity arrives and disrupts the natural order of the galaxy, a mysterious threat emerges from nowhere. Perhaps this is a human trick, a way to make us depend on them. If you believe that, Elena said coldly, then explain the 3 systems that went dark last week. Explain the 12 colony worlds that stopped communicating. Explain the refugee ships arriving at Council space with survivors who speak of shadows that devoured their stars. The chamber fell silent. The reports were real. Everyone knew it. Entire systems were being consumed by something that sensors could not detect and weapons could not harm. We are wasting time with accusations, Marcus said firmly. The Hollow are coming. They have already begun their assault on the outer regions of the galaxy. If we do not work together, every species in this chamber will be erased from existence. Vox, the energy being who had conspired with Theron, spoke with a voice that now held genuine fear instead of arrogance. What can we do? If our weapons are useless against these things, how can we fight them? Weapons may be useless, Marcus replied, but consciousness is not. The Hollow are the opposite of life, the opposite of awareness. They cannot exist where conscious beings stand together. They can only consume worlds that are divided, isolated, alone. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every species representative he could see. This is what humanity has been trying to tell you since we arrived. We are all connected. Every living thing in this universe carries a piece of the original consciousness that created everything. Separated, we are vulnerable. Together, we are unstoppable. Pretty words, the whisper said from her hidden platform. Her voice was colder than usual. But how do we turn philosophy into practical defense? By combining our abilities, Elena said. Human invulnerability is not just for humans. Our connection to the fabric of reality can be extended, shared. When humans stand beside other species, our protection spreads to them. We have tested this. It works. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. You are saying you can protect us? A plant-like being asked. We are saying we can protect each other, Marcus corrected. But only if we trust each other. Only if we truly commit to working as partners. The protection is not automatic. It requires genuine cooperation. If even one member of an alliance acts with hostility or deception, the shield weakens. Theron laughed bitterly. So you require us to surrender our independence, to become dependent on humanity for survival. This is exactly what I warned the Council about. This is survival, Elena snapped. Look at the reports. Look at the systems going dark. The Hollow are not waiting for us to sort out our political differences. They are coming now. Every hour we spend arguing is another hour they spend consuming our galaxy. High Arbiter Ven rose from his throne. For the first time since the crisis began, he looked like the leader he was supposed to be. Enough. I am calling for an immediate vote. The Galactic Council will decide whether to accept humanity's offer of alliance against the hollow threat. Those in favor? Platforms lit up across the chamber. One by one, species declared their support. The plant beings, the crystalline creatures. Dozens of species that had once mocked humanity now voted to stand beside them, but not everyone agreed. Theron's platform remained dark. So did the platforms of his allies. Nearly a third of the council refused to vote in favor. The vote passes, Ven announced. By a margin of 63%, the Galactic Council accepts humanity's offer of alliance. This is a mistake, Theron growled. And when it fails, do not expect the Valorian Empire to come to your rescue. He turned and left the chamber. His allies followed. In moments, nearly 300 species had departed, leaving the remaining council members to face the coming storm without them. Marcus watched them go with a heavy heart. We tried. We offered them protection. They chose pride over survival. Their choice, Elena said quietly. But we cannot force them to accept our help. All we can do is focus on those who are willing to fight alongside us. High Arbiter Ven approached them. His forearms hung at his sides in a gesture that Marcus had learned meant exhaustion and worry. What do we do now, Ambassador? How do we prepare for an enemy that exists beyond our understanding? Marcus looked at Elena. She looked back at him. Something passed between them. An understanding that went beyond words. We gather everyone who is willing to stand together, Marcus said. We bring them to a central location where human presence is strongest. And then we do something that no species in this galaxy has ever done before. What is that? We become one. Not just allies. Not just partners. We merge our consciousness temporarily. Humans will serve as the bridge. Every species that participates will share our connection to reality. And together, we will become something that even the hollow cannot touch. Ven stared at him. You are asking us to merge minds with humans? To become one being? I am asking you to trust us completely. To let go of your individual fears and join something greater than yourselves. It is the only way. The chamber fell silent again. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. What Marcus was asking for was unprecedented, terrifying, revolutionary, but so was the threat they faced, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the hollow continued their advance, patient, relentless, hungry. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Hollow came for the Nexus on the 7th day. Ambassador. Marcus Webb stood at the highest point of the artificial world, looking out through a transparent dome at the approaching darkness. It did not move like a fleet of ships. It did not travel through dimensional space like normal matter. It simply expanded. One moment the stars in the distance were bright and clear. The next moment they were gone, swallowed by an absence so complete that the mind struggled to comprehend it. Behind him, gathered in the vast unity chamber that humans and allied species had constructed in just 6 days, over 500 different species waited. They had come from across the galaxy. Some had traveled through hostile territory, past the Valorian Empire that still refused to join the alliance. Others had sent representatives through secret channels, risking everything to be part of what was about to happen. Captain Elena Vasquez approached Marcus. She was wearing a simple white uniform now. All the humans were. It had become the symbol of their role in what was coming. The hollow are 90 minutes away, she said. Our readings show they have consumed 17% of the galaxy since the attack began. At their current rate of expansion, They will consume everything within 3 years. Unless we stop them today, Marcus replied. Can we? Elena asked. There was no fear in her voice, only honest curiosity. What we are attempting has never been done before. We do not even know if it is possible. Marcus turned to face her. His eyes held something that had not been there a month ago, when he first entered the Galactic Council chamber. Knowledge. Ancient. Terrible, beautiful knowledge that had awakened inside him as the crisis deepened. It is possible. The voice that spoke to you on the Hope's journey was the fragment of the original consciousness that lives within all humans. It has been guiding us since this began. It knows what we must do. And what is that? Remember what we truly are. He walked past her toward the center of the Unity Chamber. The gathered species parted before him. They watched with hope and terror as the human ambassador took his place at the focal point of the massive room. High, Arbiter Venn stood nearby, with representatives from every species that had joined the Alliance. His 4 arms were raised in the traditional posture of openness and trust. We are ready, he said. Every being in this chamber has agreed to the merging. We await your guidance, Ambassador. Marcus nodded. He closed his eyes and reached inward, toward the warmth that had been growing inside him since the hollow first appeared. It responded immediately. The voice that was not quite a voice filled his awareness. You understand now, it said. You remember. I remember, Marcus whispered. We were never just humans. We were never just one species among many. We are the piece that remembers being whole. We are the fragment that carries the knowledge of what the universe was meant to be. Yes, and now you must share that knowledge. You must become the bridge between all conscious beings. You must remind them of what they have forgotten. Marcus opened his eyes. They glowed with a soft golden light that had nothing to do with any technology. Everyone in this chamber, listen to me, he said. His voice carried without any amplification, reaching every ear and perception organ in the vast space. What we are about to do will change you. It will change all of us. For a brief moment, we will become one consciousness, one being, one awareness that spans every species, every world, every dream and hope and fear that any of us have ever experienced. He raised his hands. There is nothing to fear. We are not losing ourselves. We are finding ourselves, finding the truth that has been hidden since the beginning. We are all fragments of the same original consciousness. We are all pieces of the same infinite awareness. The Hollow want us to forget this. They want us to feel alone, isolated, afraid, because that is how they consume us. The golden light in his eyes spread outward. It touched Elena first, then High Arbiter Venn, then every being in the chamber. One by one, they began to glow with the same soft radiance. But we are not alone. We have never been alone. And now, together, we will remember. The unity began. It was not painful. It was not terrifying. It was like waking from a dream and realizing that the dream had been the only reality you had ever known. Every being in the chamber felt their individual consciousness expand. They felt the boundaries of self dissolving, not into nothingness, but into something greater. They felt the joy of the crystalline creatures, the patience of the plant beings, the fierce pride of species that had warred for millennia. All of it became part of a single tapestry of awareness. And at the center of it all, they felt humanity. They felt the memory of wholeness that humans carried. They felt the connection to the fabric of reality that had made humans invulnerable. And as they felt it, they realized that this connection was not limited to humans. It belonged to everyone. It had always belonged to everyone. Humans had simply been the first to remember. Outside the Nexus, the Hollow reached the artificial world. They pressed against the outer shields, expecting the same easy consumption they had experienced everywhere else. They expected fear, evasion, resistance that could be overwhelmed. Instead, they found something they had not encountered since the birth of the universe. Light. It burst outward from the unity chamber like a supernova of pure consciousness. Not physical light, but something far more powerful. Awareness, remembrance, the absolute certainty that existence was meaningful. That consciousness was precious. That life, in all its beautiful and terrible forms, was worth fighting for. The Hollow recoiled. For the first time in 15 billion years, they felt something like pain. No, screamed the voice of the void. This is not possible. You are fragments. You are broken. You cannot unite. You cannot remember. But they could. They were. The unified consciousness of 500 species, pushed back against the darkness with a force that shook the foundations of reality itself. Inside the unity, Marcus Webb felt himself both individual and infinite. He was one human standing in a chamber. He was also every being in that chamber. He was also every being in the galaxy who chose hope over despair, connection over isolation, love over fear. You were wrong about us, he said to the Hollow. His voice carried across the dimensions, reaching into the void where they had waited since before time began. You thought that dividing us would make us weak. You thought that scattering us across the stars would make us easier to consume. But you forgot something. What? The Hollow demanded. What could we possibly have forgotten? That separation is temporary. That consciousness always seeks connection. That no matter how far apart we drift, we always find our way back to each other. We are not broken pieces of something that used to be whole. We are seeds. Seeds that were scattered so that consciousness could grow in every corner of the universe. And now, finally, we have grown strong enough to face you. The light pressed outward. The Hollow screamed. The darkness that had consumed 17% of the galaxy began to recede. Stars that had gone dark flickered back to life. Worlds that had been erased began to reappear. The consumed were not dead. They had been trapped in a kind of stasis, their consciousness held in the void until the Hollow could digest them completely. Now they were freed. Now they returned. Across the galaxy, beings who had given up hope looked up at their skies and saw the light spreading. They felt something touch their minds. Something warm. Something welcoming. You are not alone, the unified voice said. You have never been alone. Join us. Remember. And they did. By the hundreds, by the thousands, by the millions. Species that had never communicated, never cooperated, never believed they had anything in common, joined the unity. Even the Valorian Empire, watching from their fortified systems, felt the touch of the unified consciousness. Grand Admiral Theron looked at the light spreading across the darkness and felt something break inside him. The pride that had driven him his entire life suddenly seemed small, petty, meaningless. He gave the order to join the unity. The Hollow, facing the combined consciousness of an entire galaxy, had no defense. They were beings of separation, of isolation, of emptiness. They could not exist where connection was strong. They could not survive where consciousness remembered its true nature. With one final scream that echoed through every dimension, the Hollow retreated. They fled back to the edges of reality, back to the void between dimensions where they had waited since the beginning. But this time, the door they had used was closed, sealed by the unified will of every conscious being in the galaxy. In the unity chamber, Marcus Webb slowly lowered his hands. The golden light faded, but it did not disappear. It remained in every being who had been part of the unity, a connection that would never fully break. High Arbiter then looked at Marcus with eyes that held new understanding. We felt it, he said. We felt what you are, what we all are. We understand now. And you know what this means? Marcus replied. Yes, The galaxy will never be the same. We cannot go back to fighting each other. We cannot go back to separation and war and distrust. We have remembered too much. Marcus smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had allowed himself since this journey began. Then the real work begins, not fighting the hollow. That was just the crisis that forced us to wake up. The real work is building what comes next. A galaxy where every species knows they are part of something greater. A universe where consciousness continues to grow and evolve and discover new wonders. Alina Vasquez joined them. Her eyes still held traces of the golden light. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it." "We did it together," Marcus corrected. Humanity was never invulnerable on our own. We were just the spark, the reminder, the fragment that remembered what everyone else had forgotten. But the power always belonged to all of us. He looked out through the transparent dome at the galaxy beyond. Stars shone bright again. Worlds teemed with life again. And everywhere, in every corner of the cosmos, beings were waking up to a truth that had been hidden for far too long. We are not alone. We never were dot and together. There is nothing in the universe that can stand against us. The story of humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council had come to an end. But the story of a unified galaxy, working together toward a future of infinite possibility, was just beginning.